Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're taking you along with us as we take Legolas to his first horse show. Now, Legolas has been with us down here for about 2 years. Amber bought him as a 4-year-old, and unfortunately he had a few little problems when she got him, in that he'd learned to bolt away on the lunge line, and anytime you cantered him, he would basically bolt off. So for quite a while we did not canter him much for the first year, and have just gotten into it in the last year more seriously as he's begun to connect across his top line and be strong enough to do it, and also be strong enough to do it and go slowly enough that he doesn't feel like he has to take off charging. But you've all heard me talk about many times that it's, when you go to choose a horse, it's not choosing one that you can ride. Just because you can ride it doesn't necessarily mean you ought to ride it, and that every horse, as I say, is a different size wave. A horse like Legolas, who's almost 18 hands, he's very, very powerful, is a very, very big wave. So what I would say is not whether you can ride a horse, it's whether you can ride a horse when something goes wrong. As you'll see here in a few moments with Amber, and she does a great job of sticking with him. So that's what I say. It's not whether you can ride a horse when everything is normal, but can you ride a horse if something goes wrong? Because there's not a horse in the world, for instance, like this one. This is his first horse show. He hasn't been off the property in a year and a half. You can see he's coming into a really nice stride here. Now, this trot that he has right here is really what I'd like to see in the show ring, with that even a little bit more relaxation. Now, he was, once again, as I said, this is his first trip off the farm, so to speak. And so just getting him to stretch and relax is our primary goal here, as he was quite fractious, and we warmed him up a little bit at home. We only live about 30 minutes from this, so we had about a 30-minute trail ride. So we got him out this morning, and just a little warm-up, just let him stretch out before he got in the trailer to come here. And then we were working in another arena. Fortunately, there was a second arena here that was used for lunging that no one was in. So we warmed up in there a while, because once again, he's never been in a ring with other horses and going around him, that sort of thing. And of course, whenever you take a young horse, a big powerful one like this, or any other horse, to a horse show or something the first time, you always stand that chance of something upsetting the horse for a moment. And once again, it's whether you can deal with that when it does. So you can see here how he's getting back into a really nice stretch. And once again, you'll never get the best trot out of the horse until you get the horse to stretch all the way down. Otherwise, the horse will be very tight. And of course, because this horse was very excited today, now you're seeing him after we've already warmed up for half an hour or so, so he's started to relax a little bit. But and he's not a horse, as I said, that we can lunge at a horse show. I would take that chance, because he had learned to be so fractious on the lunge line before Amber got him, that he was kind of, you would take a real chance of him breaking away from you or hurting somebody or such a thing. So just better to ride him than it is to try to do that, unfortunately. But that's the way it is, and that's how we have to deal with this horse. But as you can see, he's coming around beautifully here today. Not quite the lofty trot we get at home, and quite as relaxation. But of course, you never expect it to be, right. As I say, when I look for my students, at home, this horse is scoring under my eye at least in the 70%. I never take a horse to a horse show until I can score it 70 or above in my own mind, so to speak. And this horse was starting to do that quite regularly. So this is what I'm talking about here. As you can see, the horse over there, you can still see in the screen, that chestnut, she kind of lost control of it, and it ran at him and then kicked out. You can see it has a kicking ribbon in its tail. So that sent him flying there halfway around the arena. But as you can see, Amber stuck to it. She didn't get upset, put her shoulders back and stayed right there. And the key to staying on a horse like that is just being able to totally relax, because if there's the slightest bit of tension in your body, you're simply going to part ways with the horse, because a rigid body on a body that's in motion is going to be projectile off of that motion. So we can see he comes back from that quite strong there a little bit, and generally speaking, she's having to ride him a little closer in hand than I would like him to do, but as I said, he's on the very verge of exploding here. Once again, that's the kind of issue I would rather usually with young horses take them to a horse show where they get to spend the night and that sort of thing and relax for a couple of days before they actually have to do the horse show. For him, his first time off the farm here, to come out, he had a 30-minute trailer ride, and out of the trailer and right into the warm-up ring here. So it's quite an adjustment for him, one that would have been impossible even a year ago. But he's settling down nicely now, and even with that little upset that he got there. But you can see how now the trots come back uphill. Once again, it's not quite as lofty and slow as he gets at home. Of course, I wouldn't expect it to be. Any horse that's as fit as this one is and on the muscle, and he's never... His first experience at a horse show where he's around a lot of people and a lot of action, that sort of thing, he did about as good as I would have expected him to do, or better. He did win both of his classes here today. So we're going to show you one class. Unfortunately, the second one we weren't able to get on tape, or that is, the tape machine wasn't working as we thought it was. But we're going to show you the first one. This is how we warmed him up, just got him really moving nicely, emphasis on stretching. And while he's still a little tight, he was then ready to go down the center line. So he came in there pretty nicely there, pretty straight, a little bit crooked as he went into the halt there, but nothing too terrible. Now, as you can see, once again, I would like his head and neck to be lower than this sort of thing, but this is his first attempt at a horse show here, and you see he's like any other horse, he's wanting to look at that. But she does a very good job of riding him. He comes around here. These are simple serpentines here, out to the center line and back. He does that choreo very nicely. The rhythm is pretty good. And remember, when I say rhythm, I'm always talking about the rhythm between the back legs and the front legs. So that's what it means for a horse to be rhythmic, is for those two aspects to be in rhythm together. That is the front and back of the horse. So that was a nice canter transition there. Not too bad. The canter's been a little bit of a problem with him growing up, because he was just, once again, a bolter when we first got him. So, and he had a very, very huge canter. But so that was really quite nice for him so far. He scored a 62% on this test, even though it was quite tight, and did win the class. But more importantly, he got a score that showed that he's working in the right way to develop and do much more. So while he gets marked down a little bit here for tension, that sort of thing, you can see how kind of tight he was, and he did break a little early right there. Unfortunately, the sand in this arena is very, very deep in the corners, so the horses would kind of get buried, as you'll see he does towards the end of the test. He gets a hind leg buried in one of the deep corners. But nice downward transition there, and once again, for as on the muscle as he is, you can see how you can almost see the top line pulling him up and uniting the forelegs into the walk, so there was no moment of hesitation, dropped right into it. And now it comes back to a really nice stretch, and this is one of the things about horses that have learned to stretch, is that, you know, once it actually helps them in the test to relax, because all of a sudden they get this stretch. Okay, everything's okay. It's a rewarding thing for them. So, and because of that, she got very high scores on the walk stretch, and she got very high scores on the trot stretch, as you'll see. It was turned out very nicely. So that made up a lot, as those are double efficient scores, you know. So that made up a lot in the test to bring her score back up, even though he's, once again, a little tighter than I would like to see him, and not how he can go at home. But once again, for his first horse show, we were very happy with this. But you can see he's moving quite clearly over the back. It's just a little tighter than we'd like it to be. Normally he gets a little more loft, and he gets a little lighter in the reins, quite a bit lighter. You know, so she's having to work him a little close in hand there, so to speak, just to keep him, you know, in the arena, so to speak, on this particular day. But it's not bad. And we see here his age-old problem. He always wants to lift his head. When we first started this horse, he wanted to throw his head straight in the air. So we've just gradually gotten that to disappear, and it's getting better all the time. As I say, once again, we only just began to canter this horse really in any earnest last summer, as his canter was so big. But you can see now he can stay uphill in the canter. So again, look at the beautiful development of the neck muscles there. How lovely that is as he comes around. But because he's still a little tight on the hand, he's a little crooked there, as you can see. Once again, when we can get them to stretch in the canter, then you'll get a really good straight canter. And while that transition was a little bit late there, it came back and he balanced nicely again. Once again, nicely over his top line, a little on the muscle, but look how uphill he's staying. And his diagonals are staying true. That is the relationship, the back leg to the front leg. And once again, because he stretched, this is what brought him up. He got a really high score on this, of course, and it's a coefficient of 2. So she was able to, you know, come to first place by virtue of the fact of being able to do those basic core exercises really, really well, which brought her score back up and made a lot of up for a lot of little errors there. Now you can see what happened there. He just buried his leg, but once again, because he's working over his back, he kind of flicked his ear back to sort of say what happened there, but was able to keep going, didn't lose his balance, came right back into position. Halt was a little bit fast. So now let's take one more look at the whole test. Comes in pretty straight, and once again, the crookedness is caused by she's just having to ride him a little closer in her hand than she normally likes to. His head's being carried a little higher than we'd normally like him to do, as she's trying to get him relaxed and move forward. So everything is just a little tighter than it should be. And of course, that also creates a little shortness in the step, which is what happens when we hold horses back. So she's having to ride him very tactfully throughout this. But here he connects quite nicely there and has a nice canter transition. Canter on this side is a little bit straighter than the other side, but you can see how he's dropping his head there a little bit. He's very much thinking about bucking throughout all of this. He had quite a fun day here. But he did a great job. We're very proud of Amber. She came back the second test and got a 65%. So she did a great job of keeping this horse's mind on the job throughout this. Once again, there's his little mistake that he made. And she did just the right thing to just keep on. It would have only been worse if she tried to correct the canter and then make another transition. There just wasn't enough room there. So she made the right call there to just keep going. Nicely over his back into that walk. See how he kind of stepped into it. Once again, just a little bit tight, but stepped into it really nicely. And once again, look how beautiful the stretch is. This is what we're looking for. And you know, whenever judges see horses that can really stretch correctly, I mean, they really reward it because they so rarely see it. This horse show as an example where almost every one of these riders is riding a stretch. We did not see one single person try to stretch a horse in the warm-up ring. And that's very normal. So then they get in the ring and they just kind of let go of the reins. Well, when the judges see a horse that really stretches down with no change in the rhythm or no change in the balance, you know, it makes such a big impression, a beautiful impression on them. You can see here how he's actually thinking about lengthening a little bit. But once again, because he's a little bit tight, he's a little shorter strided and not quite the loft that he normally has. Though once again, he is still staying working over his back. So once again, that's why scoring-wise, now you can see here, same thing here, because he's having to be ridden out of hand a little bit, that's what causes the canter to be a little bit crooked. That's why it's so important to keep releasing the horse and why we stretch the horse in all three gaits. Then you can straighten them. As long as you're holding the horse back against your hands, they're never going to be straight. But you can begin to see now, looking at that trot right there, where this horse is headed. As he begins to relax and be able to do that, he'll be incredible. Now, obviously, at home, as you see, we work at a much higher level than he's going to the horse show, and that's what you always want to do all the way to Grand Prix, especially at these beginning stages. Yes, this horse at home is schooling much higher levels, but, you know, this is his first horse show, so I want him to just have a successful time. I want him to do things that are easy for him. Once again, you see that's the fault of the ring, but notice how he just got right back over his back and kept right on going, even though he buried a leg there. So congratulations to Amber. She did a great job today. We're going to see a lot from this horse in the future. This is Will Faerber from Art to Ride.